Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about which auto-ranging system that's usually in the reticle is easier to work with. Okay, so there's two of them that I've used from Primary Arms. Now, Primary Arms is not the creator. They purchased the rights to use it from a different company called X-Logic. And I've done videos in the past explaining how the auto-ranging works. But today I want to focus on these two systems and talk about some of the pros and cons and help you figure out which one might be better for you, and also to give feedback to the designers of these two systems so that, going forward in the future, they have that information for when they come up with the future designs. Okay? So the first one that they've used is the one I've had on my first Primary Arm scope, right? You can see it here, and basically, let me see if I can hold it steady. It's a ladder off to the right of the bullet drop compensator. There it is. I'll see if I can pause this. There it is right there. That's a good image. Okay, so that's a ladder. Okay, and then the other one, so that was the original Primary Arms scope that went out with this acss reticle. So this is a later version. This is a much more complex reticle, a lot more information. Get this thing lined up. There it is. Let's try and get you in focus. Move it around, find focus. There it is. Okay, all right, so you guys can see what it actually looks like. Okay, so it's got a bullet drop underneath the horseshoe, and then it's got the auto ranging to the side. And that one I've actually taken out. Okay, so that's what this one looks like. All right, so basically it gives you a mill grid down here, which is great because you can take mill measurements. You got 15 mils going vertical, and then a total of 10 mils going horizontal. But off to the side here, you have the auto ranging. So the way it would work is if the foot of a man goes here and his head goes up there, he's at 300 yards. Okay, and you can also range him from the belt up. So if his belt goes there, right in the middle of that line, and his head goes up there, you would also know he's at 300 yards. If his belt is there in the middle of that one, his head's up there, he's at 400 yards. If his foot's here and his head is over there, he's at 500 yards. Okay, so that's how you use the auto ranging. But you can not, this is, I'm not sure what to call this. Let's call this the wing system, because it looks like you got wings over here, right? So this is like a wing auto ranging ladder. So versus the original one, right? So this is the wing one over here, right? So you've got your horseshoe there, you got your wings going out to the side, and you got the mill grid down here. It's called a Griffin grid. The first one that I showed you guys, right, which has the original ladder, the way that works is, it's a much more simple design. It's a much more compact design, where the foot goes there, and then let's say if his head goes there, he's at whatever 500 yards. If his foot's here and his head's all the way up there, he's at whatever, let's say 600 yards. I don't have numbers in this. But basically the foot goes here, and then you figure out where the head ends up, and that helps you figure out the range, the distance that your man is at, and you can also confirm that putting it on the width of the shoulders, right? So if you look at these bars going horizontally here, so from shoulder to shoulder, if it's here to here, let me just give this thing some numbers. So let's call this, just so that I have something to refer. So let's say that's 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? And then we'll do the same here. We'll call it 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this way I have something to refer by. So if his foot is here and his head ends up here, he's at 500 yards. Okay, so this is a much more compact system versus this. And the other thing I have found, now, first of all, let me tell you guys how I test this out. I removed the scopes from these uppers, all right, from these rifles. I removed it, and I did a video when I went out into a touristy area with lots of people moving around, okay? So not just people standing around, right? Because a lot of times the way people will test it, they'll take a cutout of a silhouette of a person, and they'll put it downrange, and that's really easy to use because now you have a stationary thing downrange, okay? But if you take this out into the real world, where you've got people moving around, right? Because people don't stand still for very long. When you got people moving around, you'll find that it's, you know, it's a little bit more difficult to use. Not that it's difficult, but it just takes a little bit more work to use it, which is natural. So between these two systems, okay, out in the, you know, again, having removed the scopes from a rifle, having, you know, going out into a touristy area. The reason why I went to a touristy area is because, one, you got lots of people moving out at different distances from, let's say, 100 yards all the way out to 1,000 yards. They're moving around, they're doing different things, they're facing different directions. And also in the touristy area, people have cameras out, they're video recording. So it does not look unusual for me to have what appears to be, you know, a camera, right, or the scope, because remember, the scope removed from the upper just looks like a camera. So it doesn't look strange if I'm holding this out, looking at people, you know, in the touristy areas, right? So that's a good place to go and test this out. So when I went into the touristy area with the scope, and I was putting it on real people that were moving around at different distances, okay, what I found with this wing system here, right, with this one over here, is as people were moving around, is like I'm moving the scope back and forth, right? So is he at 400 yards? You know, no, he's too small. So now I'm moving this back and forth sideways to figure out if he's at 400 yards or 500 yards or 600 yards. I'm kind of going back and forth, versus with the ladder system, right? With this ladder one here, where I could just put his feet here and just follow it, and then just look at his head and see where it's bopping around, right? Is it bopping between 4 and 5, or is it bopping between 5 and 4? Is it bopping between 6 and 5, or between 5 and 4? So I'm just watching the head bop around, and I don't have to move this back and forth like I was doing with this one, moving it back and forth to figure out where to line this up, okay? So in practicality, out in the real world with real people moving around in unpredictable directions, I found this one, this older system, easier to use in practicality. Now, the only issue I had with this is in cases where I could not see the full length of them, right, where I could only see them from the belt up, that was hard. I didn't know, you know, I had to kind of figure out. Hold on, let me pause this camera because there's an airplane coming overhead. Pause. Okay, so what I was saying is that in instances where I could only see them from the belt up, with this one here, it was easier to figure that out because I could put the belt there and the head would go there, and I would say, oh, my person's at 400 yards, okay? But with this one, I didn't know where the belt was, so what I would suggest as an improvement is on the opposite side, put a line over here, right, at the halfway point, so that you know that you can put the belt here and then figure out where the head ends up. Is it at 500 yards, or is it 400 yards, or 300 yards, or 600 yards? Okay, so that's what I would recommend. A line on the opposite side, not to confuse these over here, a line on the opposite side over here to help you range estimate from the belt up, okay? I think that would be very useful. Now, the other thing, let me close this marker. Hey everyone, I want to cut in here on the video because I was thinking about this. I don't want to delete it out because I think that it may have a, you know, there might be some possibilities to work with it. But the problem that I had with the belt on the opposite side here is great. You know, at 600 yards, the belt's going to be here. But if he's at 500 yards, the belt is going to end up being up here. If he's at 400 yards, the belt's going to probably end up being over here somewhere, and if he's at 300 yards, the belt is going to end up being over here. So this sort of ends up creating a ladder on the opposite side for the belt, and this may work or may not work. This is probably something that would have to be tested out. You know, practically in the real world again with people moving around. But I think that this is what would be required to take this simple ladder system to the next step. I think where you can, you can add an auto ranging from the belt up feature. You have to add these additional lines here to on the opposite side to range estimate from the belt up. So let's go back to what we were saying. Another thing that I found really useful is I could, especially if they were facing towards me or away from me, I could get an instant confirmation on the shoulder width. Okay, so if I had somebody's, let's say, foot here and their head came up to here, I could see that, okay, they're 500 yards, but then I could immediately, without having to move the scope too much, check the width of the shoulder to get a confirmation that their width matched up to this line over here. Okay, so that was, again, that was a lot easier and faster to do. With this one over here is what I found is, okay, I did, let's say, a height check. Let's say the foot went here, head went there, he's at 400 yards, but then I have to move my scope to here to figure out, okay, so I got to move from here. I had to move the scope, this part of the scope, to the person to check the width of the shoulder to get that second confirmation for distance. Okay, so I'm using two different parts of the reticle to range estimate, versus with this one over here, I'm just using the same part to get both a height, to range estimate based on height, and then also confirm with the width of the shoulder. Okay, so I did find this a little easier to use. Okay, so originally when I got this scope over here that had this system, I thought that these wings coming out from the sides might be useful because they might help you find the center of your scope, right? To find the reticle, because they would kind of guide you to the center. And what I'm finding is that these lines are a little bit too thin to help you with that, right? So in fact, what I ended up using is the spine of the Mifflin grid down here. That was actually a lot more useful in helping me find the center. Okay, so contrary to what I initially thought, these wings out here, the ranging ladders on the side, right, they don't help me find the center. So what we can do is, instead of using this, I would recommend go back to the ladder system and just throw that off on the side up here somewhere, and then that would free up this area over here to do other stuff with. Okay, so I mean, what could you do with it? Well, a couple ideas is you could put these these thick lines over here to guide you to the center. Okay, so that's one possibility. Put these thick lines to guide you to the center. You still got your bullet drop over here. So on an etch reticle without illumination, right, especially in like at dusk, or, low light conditions, these thick lines work really great. That would probably work better than trying to. Well, it would definitely work better than trying to use these lines up here to guide you to the center. So that's one option. Now, I do really like the Mifflin grid. Okay, I really do like the Mifflin grid. So what I would actually prefer is I prefer that they actually keep the Mifflin grid and put the dark lines up here. Oh, now, by the way, over here with these lines, you'll notice that I have this ranging ladder, I have it down here, like off to the side over here, right? So you can do your range estimating over here, right? And then you've got your dark lines here to guide you to the center, and then you got your bullet drop over here, and then as a backup, you also have you can also range estimate off of the shoulder. Okay, and this could also be a Raptor. You could also use the acss Raptor system with that. Now, I really like the Mifflin grid. So what I would do is I would keep the Mifflin grid over here, and instead of 4 dark lines, I would just have 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 dark lines, 2 on the side, 1 at the top, to guide you to the center. Keep the Mifflin grid down here, right? What I would do is because the way this works is this Mifflin grid, you've got 15 mils vertical, but only a total of 10 horizontal. I would double it, right? So I would go, so instead of having just 5 and 5, I would go 10 on one side, 10 on the other side. So with the Mifflin grid, I would make that a total of 20 mils going across, right? So you can range estimate other things besides a person, like cars and trucks, and So I would make the Mifflin grid wider, okay? And what I would do is the ranging ladder, instead of putting it down here, right, because we're using up that space for the wider Mifflin grid, I would put that up here, all right? So let's say top right corner or top left corner. That's where I would put this ranging ladder. So now we've got the benefit, right, in the system of you've got, you got the horseshoe, right, for your CQB distance. You've got these dark lines to bring you to the center really fast. You got your bullet drop over here, right? You're able to confirm your range estimation off of the width of these lines. You got your Mifflin grid down here so that you can, you can range estimate other things besides a person, okay? And and then you got your ranging ladder up here off to the side. Small, compact. Use that, find that, and then go down here and see which line of the bullet drop you're going to use. Okay, so that's my thoughts on the ranging ladders. Okay, initially when I saw this, I said, wow, this is really awesome. But it takes up a lot of space in practicality. Like when you go out into the field and you're actually using it, you find yourself moving the scope back and forth to figure out if somebody's at 4 or somebody's at 5. Whereas with this, you just put the foot here and then you just kind of see where their head ends up. I find this just in practicality with real people, this is easier, easier to use. Now, one of the things I learned from Dimitri, talking to him, the designer of this reticle system, if somebody's head's bopping around because let's say they're running or jogging or whatever, they're moving, like if I'm not sure if he's like at 6 or at 5, go with the closer one. Okay, so when not sure, right, because somebody's moving around, their head's jumping all over the place, go with the closer one, because what's going to happen is most people, when I did a separate video on this, most people are going to aim center mass. So what happens is if you if he's really at, let's say, at 400 yards and you target him at 300 yards, well, what's going to happen is instead of hitting center mass, you're going to hit the hip. Okay, but if he is at let's say he's at 400 yards and you estimate him at 500 yards, your bullet's going to go over his head, right? If you typically aim center mass. So we're not sure, right? Because the head's bopping around, go for the go for the closer number, okay? The closer distance. Other thing is if again, also I picked up from Dimitri, if you can't see, let's say even from the belt up, right? If you can see the shoulders, then what you do is you match up the shoulder, or let's say you can only see the head actually. Let's say you can only see the head, because a lot of times if somebody's like peeking over something, like over a car or over a wall or something, and you only see a head, figure out which of these, like put the head here and see if it's proportional, right? So if the head, let's say, is the thickness of my finger, if I put it here, well, right, first of all, if I go at 300, yeah, he looks like he has a little pinhead, right? So again, if his head is the width of my finger, again, his head is too small, proportionate to his shoulders. If I put it here, now that looks a little bit more proportional. So my guy is probably at 500 yards. Okay, all right. So basically, place the head on each one of these shoulders, right? If you can only see the head, and figure out where it looks the most proportionate, and that's the one that you should probably go with. Okay, so anyway, I want to share that information on these two. They're both excellent auto ranging systems from that's offered by Primary Arms on their reticles. So there's two different designs here, and I just want to give you my opinions from my practical experience of putting this on real people, right? Taking a scope off the rifle, going out into an area with lots of people moving around at different distances, confirming it with a rangefinder. So my practical experience has been that this ladder is a little bit easier to use than this wing design here. And if you use the ladder design, okay, basically, because that's more compact, it frees up area to do other things with the reticle. So you can put these dark, you can put these darker lines to guide you to the center, or you can, let's say, put you could put mill lines. You could do other things with the area, because This ladder design is small, it's compact, it's off to the side, and it works really well. Okay, the only thing I would advise is put a line on the other side so that you can range estimate from the belt up. Okay, so drop some comments. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all soon. Hey everyone, one more thing I wanted to quickly add. If you're somebody that prefers a much simpler system, let's say like this one versus this one over here with the Miffin grid, where you have, like, say, the horseshoe with chevron, just a basic bullet drop compensator. You're definitely going to need these dark posts here to bring you to the center, especially when it starts getting like low light like it is right now, right? Starting to get a little dark. But my thinking is that on these posts over here, right, you can still have fine mill lines, right? So each of this, let's say, can have whatever, either 10 or 15 fine little lines so that you can range estimate something like a car, right? And over here it's like whatever, it's 4 mils going across based on these fine little lines over here. And these fine little lines, right, you can have them on both the horizontal and the vertical over here, and even on this one over here. These fine little lines over here, it's not going to detract from you being able to use the dark lines, really fast when you need to, right? So that's something that can definitely be worked into these posts, so that you can have both a you can have the dark German 4, you can have the German 4 post or a duplex reticle, but also have mill lines built into it.